All right, welcome back, everybody. This is Bruce from the Up Experiment Podcast, and I'm bringing with you a brand new deck tech. This is Rona, Herald of Invasion. So this is the Rona from March of the Machine, and she is 1 in a blue for a 1/3 creature that says whenever you cast a legendary spell, untap Rona, Herald of Invasion, and you tap, draw a card, then discard a card. So she's got a loot ability attached to her, and then 5 and a Phyrexian Black, transform Rona, activate only as a sorcery. So that, because of her activated ability, this puts her in the domain of being a Dimir commander rather than being just a mono blue commander. So if you flip her over, she turns into Rona, Tolarian Obliterator, and she is a 5/5 with trample. And whenever a source deals damage to Rona, Tolarian Obliterator, that source's controller exiles a card from their hand at random. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield under your control. Otherwise, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. Kind of a neat ability. All right? So this deck is... I wanted to highlight this one tonight because there's been a lot of talk about the new commander brackets and people wondering what a level 3 looks like, what a level 2 looks like, which I think is where most people tend to play their games. So this is an example of a level 3 or a bracket 3 deck, which means I have up to 3 game-changing cards. And so let's highlight those first right off the hop. I've got a copy of the One Ring and a copy of Cyclonic Rift in my deck. Those are the only 2 game changers that are in my deck. One of them as a card draw engine that I want to use, and the other one as a way to interact with my opponent's board. Otherwise, everything in the deck is, there's powerful stuff here, but I would not say that there's stuff that puts us too far afield from being level 2. So, anyway, so this is a level 2, a high level 2 or a low level 3 deck in my estimation for a couple of reasons. The reason I think is because I'm not running a lot of mana to accelerate through my deck. So I have some ramp stuff. Let's talk about some of the ramp pieces I've got in my deck. So I've got a Bontu's Monument. All right, so Bontu's Monument is really neat. So 3 mana. It's a legendary artifact. So this plays really well with Rona's ability that when legendary spells enter the battlefield, she can untap. So you can potentially use this to help untap her to loot some more. But it says it says black creature spells cost 1 less to cast, and whenever you cast a creature spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Well, that's kind of gravy, but you're looking to get the cost reduction on your thing. We have a Mox Amber. So I'm playing the art card from Mox Amber. I own a couple of versions of the original Mox Amber, but it's very expensive, and so this is a neat way of still using Wizard's product for a card that is reasonably simplified text. So it's not proxying, but it's also not quite playing with the real thing. It's sort of in the middle, but anyway, this is my Mox Amber. All right, we have a Kefnit's Monument. So blue creature spells cost 1 less, and then it's got a looting ability on it too. All right, we have an Arcane Signet. We have the good old Sol Ring. We have a Celestis, and we have a Coveted Jewel. So that's all the ramp in the deck, and that's what you can see. It's not a lot. That's why I would say this is sort of a low-powered level 3 bracket deck or a strong level 2 deck, because you're not churning out massive amounts of mana ramp. The only other artifact in the deck is a Vidalcan Orrery, because nothing sounds like more fun than playing your stuff at instant speed. All right, now, what this deck wants to do is it wants to make Rona tap and untap as regularly as you can to take advantage of your graveyard, and then maybe at some point you flip her over. So, how am I going to untap her? Well, I'm going to play lots of legendary stuff. So lots of the creatures and lots of the other spells in here are legendary spells, but Leyline of Singularity is a really neat way to do it. So this is one of the ley lines. This is 2 in a blue, and it is, if Leyline of Singularity is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it. All non-land permanents are legendary. So this would mean that anything I cast as a permanent ends up being legendary, meaning Rona untaps and taps again, so I can loot some more. Hidden Strings is the other way I have in here. So this was a card from Gatecrash. Dragon's Maze. You may tap or untap target permanent. You may tap or untap another target permanent, and it has Cipher for 1 and a blue. So Cipher was an ability where you ended up putting, imprinting this card on your creature, and then whenever it dealt damage, you got to recast a spell. So those are ways to retap or untap Rona and so you can use her again. But there's a lot of other ways to do it. So we've got lots of legendary creatures. Krydel, we have Hope of Girapur, we have, what else do we have here? We have Gyruda, we have Lazav, we have a whole bunch of really cool things. Some of them I think I highlight a little bit more. So Hidetsugu and Kairi, which is a 5/4 for 2 blue black legendary creature, Ogre Demon Dragon. With flying, when Hidetsugu and Kairi enter the battlefield, draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library. So you get a brainstorm effect. And then when Hidetsugu and Kairi dies, exile the top card of your library. Target opponent loses life equal to its mana value. If it's an instant or sorcery card, you may cast it without paying its mana cost, which is kind of a neat ability. So kind of a good one. We're playing, since we're stocking the graveyard, God Eternal Kefnet could be handy to get you to potentially reuse some of those sorceries. This one's an interesting one. Jacob Hawken Inspector. Oh, pardon me. So this is 1 and a blue for a 0/2 legendary creature human advisor. Tap, draw a card, then exile a card from your hand face down. You may look at that card for as long as it remains exiled. You may pay 4 blue, and if you do, transform Jacob Hawken. And Jacob Hawken, when he transforms, turns into Hawken's Insight, legendary enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library face down. You may look at that card for as long as it remains exiled. Once during each of your turns, you may play a card or cast a spell from among the cards exiled with a permanent without paying its mana cost. That to me is a pretty neat ability. I don't know if it's good yet or not. I haven't resolved it enough times to be able to test definitively, but most of your opponents aren't real down with it. We have an Ashnod. We have an Villas, Broker of Blood, which is a good one. We have Oscar to make sure use of things that are in your graveyard. Lazav makes things sure that you can get the abilities again on things in your graveyard. This one, though, is one I want to talk about. This is Essior Wardwing Familiar. So this is 1 and a blue for a 1/3 legendary creature bird with flying. And spells your opponent's cast that target one or more of your commanders you control cost 3 more to cast. So it's like your commander has ward 3 on it, which I think was one of these cards that people forgot about from Commander Legends Baldur's Gate. It has partner, so it could be your partner, but it's just really good to slip in your deck and keep it there so that, you know, if you have your commander on the battlefield, and I would like to keep Rona out, Essior makes it a little bit harder for your opponents to target it. All right? So pretty neat creature package, lots of interesting things. Now, since I'm just tapping and discarding things lots, I'm going to make use of my graveyard. So, I've got a bit of a couple of madness toys here. We've got Welcome to the Fold, which is has madness on it, and then Dark Withering, which is destroy target non-black creature. So we have a control magic effect and a kill spell, both as madness effects, so that when you discard them, you get to cast them. We've got things that get our payoffs for drawing and discarding things to our graveyard. So Containment Construct says that whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard. If you do, you may play it this turn. So meaning you get access to the stuff even if you discarded it. Ominous Seas, super useful. So you put a bunch of counters on this for every card you draw, and then you can make 88 Kraken tokens. The number of times that has won me games, I can't express. Drakehaven, this one, every time you discard or cycle, you pay 1, you make a 2/2 Drake. Always good to put the creatures on the board. Mystic Redaction, 2 and a blue enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. Whenever you discard a card, each opponent mills 2 cards. Usually that effect is targeted as whenever you draw a card, but Wizard's Class. You have no maximum hand size, which can be useful in this deck. And then when this class becomes level 2, you draw 2 cards, and then whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So this is really just build a bomb where you draw enough cards, make something huge, and then you win the game. All right, Dying to Serve. So enchantment, 2 and a black. Whenever you discard 1 or more cards, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. All right, super handy. Archfiend of Ifnir. So this one says whenever you cycle or discard another card, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature your opponents control. So if you can tap and untap Rona 2 or 3 times in a turn, you could shrink their board pretty significantly and make it so that they really don't have much avenue to attack you with. We've got a brand new card from Aether Drift, Monument to Endurance. So this is a 3-mana artifact. Whenever you discard a card, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Draw a card, create a treasure token, opponent loses 3 life. I've highlighted that in other decks that I have because I think it's pretty cool. Gixian Puppeteer, 3 and a black, 4/3 creature. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. And then when Gixian Puppeteer dies, return another target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. All right. Thought Reflection is a pretty neat enchantment. It's an old one and it's kind of janky at 7 mana, but if you would draw a card, draw 2 cards instead. So if you can cast Rona and tap her and draw a card with her, then Thought Reflection says you're going to see 2. All right, seems good to me. We have a Bow Miser. This one has been popping off recently. 5 and a black for a 4/4. Whenever you discard a creature card, create a 2/2 black zombie token with 2/2 black zombie token. Whenever you discard a land card, add black. And whenever you discard a non-creature, non-land card, draw a card. Super good. And then we have Chasm Skulker, because whenever you draw, you end up drawing extra cards. You put counters on this. And eventually when they kill Chasm Skulker, because they're going to have to, it's going to make a whole bunch of squid tokens with Island Walk. All right. Then we have our interactive package. What we have to make sure that we get through to the end of the game and are still playing. All right. So we've got an Urtai the Resurrected. That's either a kill spell or a counter spell, whatever you need. Whelming Wave is another form of a mass bounce effect. You could play something like a Damnation in this slot here. I've elected for Whelming Wave because I don't really want all my creatures to go to the graveyard. I'd be quite prepared to replay some of them, but I want to reset my opponents. Narcissus Reversal is just a super good card, allowing you to potentially force them to replay their spell, but you get a copy of it first. Or sometimes it's just you cast it on your spell, you get a copy of it, and you put the original back in your hand. Snap, super good interactive spell. 1 in a blue, and then you can return target creature to its owner's hand, untap up to 2 lands. Defile is one of my favorite. If I'm playing a lot of swamps, and this deck is playing quite a number of swamps, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn for each swamp you control for a single black. So big fan. Swan Song, enough said. Good counter spell. Go for the Throat. Terrific removal spell. Counter spell, the OGs of counter spells. We have Drown in the Lock. Because you're filling your yard, Drown in the Lock is going to be really useful for you here. Wizard's Retort. Well, since Rona is a wizard, Wizard's Retort gets a cost reduction on it, meaning you just have another counter spell in hand. And Curse of the Swine is a mass exile effect. It can get 1 target or it can get a whole bunch of targets. Now, let's talk about how I'm making sure my hand stays full, because I'm drawing lots of cards, but I'm really getting card selection with Rona more so than card advantage. So how am I generating card advantage? Well, Unctus is a great way. So Unctus is 1 blue for a 2/4. Other blue creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes tapped, draw a card, then discard a card. Other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1, and then a Phyrexian blue. Until end of turn, target creature you control becomes a blue artifact in addition to its other color types. Activate only as a sorcery. So you can turn any one of your creatures into a way to draw a card. All right. Ponder, card selection, useful. Grazilax. So this one's 1 blue for a 3/2. Whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, you may return it to its owner's hand. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you get to draw a card. So if you attack with 3 things, they get through, you get to draw 3 cards. Binding of Thassa, same ability. It also has an emote on it where it can goad your opponent's creatures, so you can get a clear attack the next turn. Visions of Beyond. So it's a single blue for an instant, draw a card. If a graveyard has 20 or more cards in it, draw 3 cards instead. Since I'm probably the one with having a full graveyard, I'm likely using this more often than not as a 1-mana draw 3. We have a Tevesh Zat, Doom of Fools, which is a planeswalker. And so it's 4 and a black for a 4 loyalty Tevesh Zat. Create 2/0/1 Thrall tokens. Sure, I guess. You may sacrifice another creature or planeswalker as the +1. If you do, draw 2 cards. Then draw another card if you sacrifice permanent was a commander. And then -10, gain control of all commanders. Put all commanders from the command zone onto the battlefield under your control. You're really playing this for the +1, but if your opponents are going to allow you to get to the -10, go for it. And last but not least, we have a Memory Deluge, just a useful card draw effect. It's going to let you use it the first time, and then it's going to let you flash it back to dig even deeper. All right, let's look at a bit of the reanimation package in here. It's just a little one, but it's going to be kind of useful. So we've got a Victimize, a Living Death. So each player exiles all creatures cards from their graveyard, then sacrifices all creatures they control, then return all cards that were exiled this way to the battlefield. So if you've discarded 3 or 4 creatures to your graveyard with Rona, and you need to board wipe, you can wipe the board and you can gain advantage and bring those creatures right back. Breach the Multiverse is a big 7-mana spell. Each player mills 10 cards. For each player, choose a creature or planeswalker card in that player's graveyard. Put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. Then each creature you control becomes a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. Kind of a fun effect, super neat. And then we have a Dance of the Dead, which is a really old enchantment that allows you to reanimate something from your graveyard. So this list is a little bit more expensive than lots of the other things I brew. This one came in at about $450, and there's still lots of room to go. My mana base is very simple, lots of basics. There's a few utility lands, but lots of basics in this deck. Basically, the premise being, I'm going to be able to find my mana and find find what I need to use, because Rona, with her loot ability, is going to let me have really good card selection and to find the lands I need to play to keep making my land drops. But you could go and put the Watery Graves and all the other, fancy lands in here to make sure that you do not miss colors, that you get exactly what you need. But as an example of a level 3 deck, this is a pretty reasonable list, I think if people were to play this, you'd have a lot of fun. It's again a little on the pricier side because of a few of the cards. Those game changers are a little bit pricey, but on the whole is very fun. Lots of actions and game actions, so you have to be prepared for that. If you want to see the list, it's down in the show notes down below, or you can check out our podcast each and every week wherever you get your favorite podcast. But until next time, this is Bruce with the Up Experiment signing off, seeing you next time, and have a great day, everybody. Talk to you later.